Iran is Al Qaeda's home base. And that's a lot better of a home base to have than Afghanistan.
Make no mistake about it. Today, the Iranian regime harbors the Al Qaeda senior leaders that are responsible for the global jihad, the global operations of Al Qaeda.
This is protection by the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. This is all happening at the same time that the United States is trying to negotiate with these terrorist state who's harboring terrorists. They're like a double terrorist state. And if you think about the reality of this is the one country in the region that can literally wreak havoc in the Middle East.
This is back in January, and people told him he was not correct on this. Take a listen.
I would say Iran is indeed the new Afghanistan as the key geographic hub for Al Qaeda. But it's actually worse. Unlike in Afghanistan, when Al Qaeda was hiding in the mountains, Al Qaeda today is operating underneath the hard shell of the Iranian regime's protection. America has far less visibility on Al Qaeda's capabilities and their activities than we did on their activities when they were in Tora Bora or even in the mountainous regions of Pakistan.
Iran can deny this all they want, but you know who agrees with Secretary Pompeo on this? President Biden's own intelligence team. So if President Biden and the rest of the administration wants to turn a blind eye, they're going to have to turn it to their own advisors.
The thing that stood out to me, they said it is unlikely that Al Qaeda, based in Iran, would launch an attack in 2021 on the United States. Unlikely, Jay, is the operative word, because this report is what the name implies. It's a threat assessment. It is designed to be informative. Here are two things this report is not. It's not a definitive prediction of an attack on the homeland, but it is also not an assurance that such an attack will not happen.
This is the key sentence. Overall, Ayman al-Zawahiri, he's the leader of Al Qaeda, remains in hiding, while a handful of Iran-based Al Qaeda leaders oversee Al Qaeda's network. So while Zawahiri is in hiding, kind of like how bin Laden went into hiding after 9/11, a handful is not two. So a handful of Iran-based Al Qaeda leaders, not operatives.
We should keep in mind that Iran is the leading state sponsor of terror. Second, we should keep in mind that Iran is one of the most duplicitous regimes in modern world history. And third, the Biden administration, after bringing stunningly low levels of energy and incoherence to the White House, has now opened U.S. borders to human trafficking, drug dealers, and to terrorists.
The Biden administration is not upping the sanctions on Iran when they found this, but they're willing to take away the sanctions just to get it back to the negotiating table with Iran. You'd think they'd be doing the opposite.
The Biden administration's intelligence is the one saying that Iran is harboring Al Qaeda. I mean, I don't use words like treason. I'll use words like stupidity and ridiculous and putting Americans in harm's way for what?
It is almost unexplainable to think about how someone could see that making sense, how an average American could stare at the terrorists from the Iranian regime, knowing that they're harboring Al Qaeda's most senior terror operators, and say, oh goodness, the United States decision today is to lift terror sanctions on these folks. It's befuddling, to say the least.
I just don't think there's any way to describe this, Jay, other than putting the interest of the largest state sponsor of terrorism ahead of the interest of the United States of America. I mean, that's what it is. There's a desperation to achieve an alliance with Iran that is outpacing U.S. security interests. Because, Jay, in a vacuum, right, a country that is harboring an entity with a long track record of hostilities and attacks on the United States, that would be the very last country you would be seeking an alliance with.
Do you think maybe when you're sitting down on these stupid, ridiculous negotiations you're about to engage in, you say, you know what, before we sit down, we'd like you to get rid of the Iranian protection of Al Qaeda. But I guarantee you that's not even on their thought list.
No, I don't.
That's the problem. And that's why, again, we're going to go to court and we're going to find out about this whole John Kerry State Department cabal that was going on here.
This has been a paradigm shift. First it was Sudan, was the safe haven for Al Qaeda. Then it was Afghanistan. But now they've moved up a notch, I think, in their ability to, obviously had Pakistan's role with bin Laden, but this is moving up a notch and they're giving them capabilities to act, because they can act alongside the Revolutionary Guard against their shared enemies.